Welcome to the Queen City Music Podcast, the podcast devoted to the local music scene in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, here's your host, Matthew Ablan.
Welcome to the Queen City Music Podcast and the second installment of the Corona Files. This is an extra installment of the podcast in which I speak with local Charlotte musicians and discuss how the coronavirus has impacted them. This month, I'm speaking with Rahsaan Lacey, who's the bassist for the LA Maybe and has developed the Quarantine Masterclass. The Quarantine Masterclass is an online class which delves deep into a different musical topic every Monday at 1 p.m. Well, Rahsaan, thanks for coming on the podcast today, man.
Yeah, thanks, Matt, for having me. It's good to kind of link up with you and connect, even though we're not allowed to be in the same room like I was last time.
I know. I keep saying to folks I would love to have them over, but I'm just kind of trying to keep that social distancing thing happening.
Right.
So we know, you've been on the podcast before. You were on a number of months ago with the LA Maybe.
Yeah.
And when you and Dallas came on, but this set of podcasts I'm doubling up each month, and I'm calling it the Corona Files, and I'm talking to different musicians in town about what they've been doing and how they've been keeping busy. And we're friends on Facebook, and I noticed that you had this whole vibe going on with some quarantine masterclasses.
Right.
And I found that really interesting. So before we get into that, why don't you fill everybody in about your background and what you've been doing in case they hadn't heard the episode with you and Dallas from the
LA
so
Maybe. I play bass for the local band called the LA Maybe, and we have been trying to still keep to work during this crazy time. We just dropped a single called Fake last 2 months ago now, so back in February, and we also have an EP out as well, just self-titled The LA Maybe, and you can find all of that basically anywhere music is streamed. So of course Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes. You can buy it straight from our website. Sorry, I just got to do the plug. It's like a it's a reflex at this point.
No
but
problem.
yeah, so we're remotely. Everybody's been having to try to kind of change their efforts and their output in one way or another. For one thing, us as a band, we do remote writing sessions, and we also do a weekly podcast too, where we just kind of just hang out on the record. So it keeps us connected both creatively
right.
and just as people, as friends too. And those drop every Wednesday too. Sorry for the other plug. But
that's perfectly fine, man.
Yeah, well, they'll actually be one. Yeah, that's tomorrow. At the time of this recording, this is a Tuesday. So every Wednesday that drops. So as content goes, we have to as artists have to constantly adapt. And one of the things that I've always wanted to do, just as a musician that also teaches music, I've made most of my living teaching and producing and performing too. And two of those can still happen with the stay-at-home orders still being in place, and
Sure.
just social distancing being what it is. But obviously I can't perform, which was a big bulk of my income, and also just what I did with my day-to-day.
Right.
So with me needing a teaching itch to be scratched, and my current students that have all since moved remote, still not exactly filling up my schedule completely, freed up a bunch of time to start working on some personal projects.
Sure.
So I decided to take my desire to be a clinician into my own hands, and just thought, why don't I just start doing these free master classes where I could just have people tune in for these essentially group lessons, and they can be deep dives in a bunch of different topics, all spanning many different subjects, whether I know a lot about it or not. If it's something that I don't know a whole lot about, but I think could be really valuable, I will bring a guest on. And actually yesterday, so they're every Monday. They've been every Monday afternoon, except for last week's class. It was on a Thursday because my power got knocked out during
I remember I was going to come into that one.
Yeah. That was a big frustration. But it got rescheduled, and it ended up being a really good time. That was the production masterclass. So far it's been 2 bass classes, which is my primary instrument, as I mentioned before. And I did those to sort of just see if it would work. My comfort zone is with that instrument, so I can talk ear off about it all day. And
Right.
So it turned out that the interest was there, and so far I have, through the help of many other people that are keeping it going and feeding the fire here. There's a private Facebook group where everything is kind of like serving as the hub. Mm-hmm. And that's grown from 0 members to, in 2 weeks, I think I last checked, around, it should be about 110.
Wow, fantastic, man.
Yeah, and growing. And we've done now 4 live streams of these clinics, and each one is a little bit bigger than the last. And so far we've gotten a little bit of love from Music Everywhere Charlotte, as part of their Music Anywhere initiative. They've been reposting things as they come up, and trying to work on pulling more strings to get even more people involved as this continues to grow. So yeah, that's basically the whole rundown. Hopefully I
So
didn't lose you.
when you started to develop the Quarantine Masterclasses, was it something where, had you been thinking about doing kind of clinics online before, or was it something that just you were just trying to kill some boredom, as it were?
A little bit of both. I of course, like all of us, we don't have to go anywhere or essentially have to do anything.
Right.
So filling up my free time is, I suddenly had a lot of free time to just kill. And I've always wanted to do something like that, involving like instructional content creation, because that's how I learned a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Before I went to Berkeley, I was completely self-taught and basically learned everything I could from, by ear, listening to as much music as I can and learning that, and also YouTube videos too. And it was during the age of people taking like their old tapes and ripping them and putting them, actually like uploading them to YouTube. So the Modern Electric Bass tape by Jaco Pastorius is a really famous example.
Yes.
Hal Leonard can no longer make any money off of that, because people can just go watch that same YouTube video in 4:3 resolution and don't even have to care. There's Gary Willis's Modern Progressive Bass, which is an excellent technique primer. There's John Mayung's progressive bass concepts, like old tapes from the 90s. Frank Gambale's Chop Builder, all this stuff. Like, again, I can go all day. Steve Vai's 30-hour workout is a PDF now. It used to be a Guitar World.
Yeah. So just out of curiosity, when you started putting together, let's just talk about for a minute the Quarantine Bass Masterclasses that you did.
Yeah.
What's your starting point? I know you were kind enough to send me a copy of some of the stuff that you covered in the booklet, but tell the listeners what were you covering? Did you start on the bare bones? Because obviously you're a fairly advanced player, so I would guess you maybe didn't jump right into advanced topics.
Right, yeah. A lot of the stuff for right now, just to kind of reach that tip of the bell curve, is to really aim for giving as much clear information on the basics. What I found in that class is really interesting too, because it was mainly actually the second class, which is a little bit more advanced, where we started talking about actual grooves. The first one was just about technique, and it ended up actually being, it was funny, it was a private lesson. One guy showed up, David Gibson, who you may or may not have talked to, but he's a sweet guy. Awesome multi-instrumentalist.
I think I saw him in the class that I sat in.
Yeah. He was there. He's been to everyone. He's one of the real ones. So he and I, we just hung out for like an hour and a half. We just killed some time together and talked a little bit about bass, and he gave great suggestions on future content too. So the second class was where we really got into just still some basic grooves, but like the bass's role as an instrument. Not too much about like the nuts and bolts of like technique and how to play it, because I like to make that more individualized. So, right. But what was cool was that even though the grooves were were fairly simple, and the concepts were fairly simple. They were things that some very, very good musicians that tuned in had never even thought about before. So as an example, there was we talked about eighth notes and how like differently you can play eighth notes on the bass, and I talked about different ways your right hand can affect that. And I brought up Everyday People by Sly and the Family Stone, which, if you're familiar with that song, it's kind of like a driving soul, almost a rock song, like not quite there, but more of just like it's almost like a train that doesn't stop moving for 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that drives that really hard is the bass and the drums, of course. And the bass itself is only one note. It's a G. So it's Larry Graham thumping away on a G with eighth notes for 2.5 minutes straight, which is actually how I start teaching slap bass. Because if you can't do that for 2 minutes, then you have no business learning slap until you can. So anyway, nobody knew that. These are people that have degrees, college degrees. Right. In music, professionals in music, and people that are still hungry enough to seek out new information. And that was one of the things that I was able to give them. And like, that was where it really clicked for me. It was just like, whoa, this could really be kind of impactful, because I'm able to just turn some people on to some cool things, not because it's like anything super advanced, but it's just because they themselves as individuals have never really thought about it. So
well, how everybody approaches an instrument is just completely different. I mean, you could talk to 10 different guitar players and get 10 different approaches.
Exactly.
I mean, at least for me. And then you watch other people play, and I mean, that's the beauty of music. Nobody's going to play it like you will. You could take the same song and your same notes, but your groove might be a little bit different. The way you touch the instrument, or approach is going to be different. It's actually a truly amazing thing when you talk to other musicians about how they approach.
Right. So that was where we started with that too, is how really more so on feel, talking in terms of how you play the same notes and you can alter the length a little bit or the emphasis a little tiny bit. And it can go from feeling really good to feeling really stiff and awkward. And then I would go around, everybody had a bass on them. We actually had one guy he's a guitar player and had an 8-string guitar that has a low E string on it. So even he was able to do some stuff in that range to emulate the instrument. And so I had them go around and play the different examples, and everybody kind of discovered something new about their own playing and their own perception of music just by giving it a little shot in a different way. So that was really cool. And then since then we've had a production class where I gave a rundown of a recently released track. And yesterday, now that we're back on schedule, yesterday, which was Monday, we had the first guest, Jeff Small, who plays in Swim in the Wild. He ran a guitar course for us. So It was all his material. I just kind of translated it and put it into a PDF, and then sort of acted more as a moderator, because I really want to use this as an opportunity to put other people on as well, so that we can kind of all take advantage of this opportunity to shift content creation to more digital space.
And how much, just out of curiosity, when you're doing this stuff, the classes, you mapping out what you want to teach, or are you kind of winging it? How are you?
That's basically the purpose of the PDFs that always accompany each lesson, is that it serves as a guide for me, and you can actually follow along with it as well if it happens to be one. The production one didn't have a PDF because that one was more freeform, where I just went over what was going on in that particular project session.
Right.
But all the instrumental ones so far have had accompanying material that you can like actually keep and try out yourself. And then later on, the plan is to also organize it in a more like high quality, a little bit more a higher production value way too. So it won't be like live streams, but it could still be video content that you can revisit, and just like those instructional videos that I talked about a little bit earlier. Same kind of concept, but a little bit less shorter form.
Right. So the audio recording class is the one I sat in on. I wanted to make the other ones, but I didn't get a chance to. But
Right.
so do you get a sense of who your audience is coming into some of the master classes?
It's still really early to see, just because every subject has been fairly different. Like, I thought the bass sessions were both gonna kind of flop. I knew the first one definitely would, because it's just brand new, and that's just what happens when things are new. Like, not enough people really know about it. You're still growing it. You're still kind of figuring out what works. And I tried to do it just by using the news feed on Facebook, and realized that the algorithm is so crazy messed up right now that the only way to directly reach people was to start a group and do it that way. So doing that little pivot got more people involved, just because I'm able to directly reach them in the Facebook group rather than their news feed, because like everybody is on their Facebook apps right now. They're always constantly posting like 4 or 5 times a day, so stuff will just get buried. So in order to bypass that, just find an easier way to actually go to them. So that was where the group idea came from. And then immediately started to see some growth. Not necessarily demographic wise. Like, I don't know still who's interested, what they look like, you know, all those like nitty gritty marketing things that you will eventually figure out once you got enough data. But I know that every single week we've seen an uptick in participants, no matter what the subject is. So the second bass class, for example, we had 7 people in the Zoom group, and then a bunch of people joined, you know, popping in and out on the Facebook stream. And then the production class, we had, I think, 10 involved. And then the guitar class, it was pretty similar numbers. So, and this is just in the Zoom thing too. It's not even including the numbers that are in the Facebook stream itself. So overall, I'm hoping to see more and more people get involved. What's been really cool is that I'm starting to see people that I don't know, which is always a good sign that something is actually working, because then it's really not about you. It's about like what you're doing and nothing else. Like, they think your thing is cool. They don't care about you.
So how did you start advertising the Quarantine Masterclass? Did you just decide I'm going to put it up one day and I'm going to just on your own feed on Facebook, or did you put it out, so get the word out somewhere else? Another way?
That was where it started, and then also Instagram. Both barely did anything. Then moved on to the group format, which essentially works just like a discussion forum. Those are basically, they serve the same purpose in that it's focused. You come there for one thing and one thing only, and that is, you know, whatever the subject of the group is. So right then and there, you know that somebody that's in that group is interested. It's almost like building an email list, but since I don't have that approach to it, then there's no sense in me making one of those yet. So it's still a way to sort of emulate that. So then I've been hitting the email, not the email list, but the Facebook group thing the hardest, and just using that rather than the newsfeed format.
Hey, you touched upon something earlier. I want to backtrack a little bit. You said the Facebook algorithm's all messed up. What did you mean by that?
So one thing that I noticed, the more that I posted things that, and the more I started watching other people and what their content was doing too, things are just that would normally get a certain amount of engagement just don't anymore. And I think it's just due to the fact that more people are posting, and that just kind of pushes everything further down the line. And with the algorithm still kind of focusing more on engagement, rather like the volume of engagement rather than, you know, timeline, which is what it used to be, then people will just straight up miss your stuff because of the time that you posted it and just what's being posted at the same time as that. So it's attention. The attention aspect of social media is really, it's just kind of so much in flux in a way that I've never seen before. So I'm still kind of learning about what's going on in regards to that. It's really interesting.
Well, I know, I mean, I don't use Facebook Live or anything a heck of a lot, if really ever, but I did notice I was following one day, one of the folks I follow, Jennifer Batten, the guitar player. She used to play with Michael Jackson and Jeff Beck
Yeah.
In the 80s and 90s. And she had said, I just caught her live feed one day, and Jennifer Batten was talking about how she's like, I don't know what happened. I went to go live, and all I used to have to do was press a button, and it was live. And now all of a sudden, Facebook changed everything up, and the whole way you got to go through a whole series of clicks and punches and all this stuff to do before you even go live anymore.
Yeah. So what I think it's starting to do is sort of emulate what's going on with Twitch and Mixer right now, where you can pretty much start to there's more room for customization on Facebook. They're rolling out some like beta thing called Live. I think it's called Live Producer, where you can do things like change your backgrounds and add like custom things, like just like Twitch could do 10 years ago now.
Right.
So I think that might be what's causing people to sort of have to feel like they have to relearn it. The benefit, though, is that live videos are being prioritized more than anything, just because of the amount of like comments, shares, and just general likes and stuff. That happens more on long form content than anything. So if you're live for an hour, you're gonna get a bunch of comments. Facebook just sees 12, 20, 50 comments, and it doesn't care what it's on, right? It could be on a picture, it could be on a video, it could be on a live feed. But if it sees whatever it sees 50 comments on, it's going to push that to the front because it understands that people obviously want to see it and talk about it. So if it's your live video that's getting that kind of engagement, then that's why live right now is king, more so than anything else on the site.
Yeah, absolutely. And particularly during this quarantine phase right now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people are bored. They want to learn something new. My game plan is I'm maybe same with you. I talk to friends about it, and I keep saying, I'm going to walk out of this somehow better. Whether I learned some new technology, some aspect, whether it's working out, whether it's walking, whether it's reading a new book, something different. I'm going to walk out of this a little bit better than I came into it. I mean, that's kind of been my goal with it.
Right.
And that's nice that you're doing the master classes because you can watch it and, pick up something new.
And that's what I hope. I hope that if anything, you see it on your newsfeed as you've scrolled past, everything 50 or so times, and maybe on that 51st time you tune in and, learn a little something new about making cool stuff. I just want to see people make cool stuff. That's really all it comes down to.
So all the quarantine masterclasses, are they in a Facebook group? Are they on your page? How do people access them if they want to watch the older videos?
And when you post this, Matt, you can tag the group. The group is just called Quarantine Masterclass, Quarantine Music Masterclass. Sorry, I had to keep it specific, but it is. I want to emphasize it is a community for all music makers. So it's not a bass-centric thing. It's not a guitar-centric thing. It's for people that just want to make music in whatever way they can, and that's really it. What I would love to see happen is that people take things that we give them and turn around and actually do things with them and like post them. And
right.
So like, for example, for the production class, I posted the stems from the track that I gave the breakdown of in the hopes that people would actually take them, download them, and like, just play around with them, either remix the stems or sample it and make a track out of it. They're your free playground. The exercises that I give in the PDFs, they are for you to explore with, expand upon, whatever.
So so far you've done the bass master classes, you've done the audio master classes, and then you also, I noticed, Jeffrey Smalls. Is it Jeffrey Smalls?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He came on and did a guitar one the other day.
Right.
So you're not necessarily, it's not only just about you, you're inviting other people to come in and participate in doing the classes.
Correct. Yeah. So that's the most exciting thing about that is that I can have a break. So I'm not like pounding myself the whole time, every single week after week after week, sometimes even less than a week, having to turn around and make essentially a new course every single week. I can do that, but just because you can doesn't mean you should, because then burnout happens.
Right.
So this allows me to sort of reevaluate what's working, what's not working. We're a month in now. That was week number 4. So now I can have a perspective of what people enjoyed. I don't know what anybody didn't enjoy, because they're not going to tell me that. It's still mostly people I know, so nobody's going to want to hurt my feelings. But eventually, as this keeps going, what I will eventually find is that there will be negative feedback to be addressed, and then I can take a step back and see what I need to adjust to make sure that's taken care of. So the guest spots are this time there's going to be there's actually another guest spot next week where I have a Raleigh musician by the name of Cam Gillette. He's from a duo called Smoke from All the Friction. I can never say that name smoothly, but it's a really awesome synth pop duo, and he and his bass player and co-producer Kenny Andrews also just dropped an EP. And so I think what we're going to do, I think the plan is still to do a synthesizer rundown where he just basically goes through sound design and some of his approaches to that. His words were make them sound exciting instead of being, having no character. So that I'm really excited for. And then the week after that will, I believe, be another home recording course where we'll talk mainly about how to just use your own home setup. So
Right.
miking amps, setting yourself for vocals, what you need, because it looks like we're going to be in here a while, stuck in our houses. So it'll be kind of more of a basic overview of how to make sure that you can get really, really cool results on a minimal kind of bare bones setup, just like you've got right there with your, is that a 58 or a 57?
58.
Yeah. So what's interesting too, I'm actually working on a release remotely, and I'm discovering how not easy, but definitely doable it is to get pretty pro grade vocal production out of just an SM58 and basic Scarlett 2i2 interface. It's been an interesting experience.
Well, you figure it this way. I mean, you've got somebody like a Billie Eilish, and when she won a Grammy, and that whole thing was produced, at home.
It was all produced at home, not mixed at home,
Right.
but all engineered at home, which is true. Which is absolutely true.
But you know what? I think that'll become better down the line. The more people are doing home recording, the better they're going to be becoming at mixing and maybe even eventually mastering at home.
Yeah,
I mean, not that everybody will do it, but some people might specialize it more doing it at home rather than sending to a specific person.
Exactly. Yeah, that kind of adaptation is kind of what I'm talking about. Even with this class and beyond, how this situation is going to change things, for better or for worse. They're going to change things. It's going to inevitably lead to us as just people, whether we make art or not. But we gotta switch up the game because what we were doing wasn't working. It wasn't future proof, and it wasn't completely at all without faults. So in doing that, we have to really come together as a community of musicians and artists and beyond, and kind of figure out what we can do to help each other. And the masterclass is just an example of how I wanted to do that. Really, it was just to see what other people wanted, what they were looking for, what they need, and how I could somehow, with my limited abilities and other people's way better abilities than mine, actually fulfill that need that is never going to go away.
So right now you're dropping the masterclass once a week. What day and time are you normally doing it on?
Unless the power gets cut from a rogue tree branch again, it's every Monday at 1 p.m. Trying to do an easy lunchtime time slot in the beginning of the week.
So is the plan really to just continue this during the quarantine the quarantine that we have, or are you planning on maybe even keeping it going after the quarantine's over?
Yeah, I've been wrestling with that since day one, because once the quarantine is over, there goes my branding. So
right,
I haven't decided what to do with it permanently, but given the unknown nature of everything that's happened, even the past 3 days, let alone past 2 months, I'm not really worried about any like huge changes in my own efforts at all. I'm hoping that, like I said before, I can eventually like take what I've already done as far as like the workbooks, PDFs, and that kind of stuff, and just make more high production value content.
Sure.
So that's where probably, if I do have to pivot, is going to be going into like maybe a YouTube channel, or launching an actual course that will be super affordable and also easily accessible at any time from a website. So I'll have to just keep on seeing what's possible as we keep going.
So I guess your limitations on how many people can participate in the masterclass are essentially going to be based on whatever format or video conferencing application that you're using.
Right. And all I'm using is Zoom. I got the premium membership, or at least like the base level, whatever that is, to be able to do that. So the limitations are really just up to 100 people in the Zoom class. But then what Zoom allows you to do, which is really cool, is share your conference to Facebook. So there's that kind of integration. And then what's also cool is that with, as you saw with the production class, I can do things like share my screen. So I can stream things like audio, in real time, so that if you're watching in the Zoom call, or if you're watching on Facebook, you can see exactly what's going on in the call as it's actually happening, and you don't have to make any compromises with anything just because you can't like make it at that particular time. Facebook also records everything and leaves it for posting later on too. So if you didn't make the time to catch it live, then you could do it later on too. That's a huge benefit for other people, because I get messages and comments on stuff all the time. I can't make that time, but I don't want to make it hard for people to see my stuff. So,
and you're laughing, thinking, "What else are you doing? We're all quarantined. We're not going anywhere."
Yeah. But at the same time, they could be people that are working on their own personal projects. I can't really say one way or another what anybody's doing, because I'm not.
Oh no, man! I'm just joking. I'm joking. Yeah. I know everybody's got their own time frame.
But I do have that thought. The little devil on the shoulder does pop up and says they're not doing anything. Where are they going? What are they doing?
Well, I could tell you this from my part. I wanted to attend the one that you had on Monday, but the 1:00 time for me, I'm actually still working from home. I'm a teacher during the day, as you know, and so I'm keeping a regular time schedule from 7:30 to 3:30 in the afternoon. Yeah. So as much as I'd love to just sideswipe everything and be like, "Oh, I'm home," I've got my own Zoom classes with my kids at school that I do.
Yeah, and the same thing with me too, since I teach remotely private lessons, and everything that I do happens after the school day. So I'm locked down basically every single day except for weekend days from like 3:00 to basically 6. We lucked out because Tuesdays this time, we're now like almost 6:15. Right. Tuesday happens to be my only light day where I can, stop before 5:00. So it was, for me, it was like, okay, well, do I reserve this for a weekend? And then but then I don't have a weekend, and I need to rest, because like my days, what's crazy about this whole quarantine is that because of, I'm now steps away from all of my gear, whereas before I was I'm living at home and up at the studio. Now I'm just staying at the studio, so I can make stuff whenever I want, which usually ends up being 14-hour days, sometimes 16-hour days, just as soon as I wake up. So I've found that I need a weekend. There could be worse things, it's man. Crazy.
I mean, you're mastering your scale stuff. I, on the other hand, I've been turning around. The one thing I've kind of keep saying about this quarantine is, I mean, I'm not by any stretches a lot, but I mean, I have my day job as a teacher. At night, I was gigging, and I was gigging at least 6 to 12 times a month, depending on the month. And my weekends were pretty much gone. And the nice thing that this quarantine has done is kind of, I don't want to say I'm happy to not be performing, but the nice thing is it kind of slowed everything down, and it's making me just kind of appreciate the opportunities I had of performing a lot, and give me opportunities to learn some new things. Like I'm learning some new software now. I was on Pro Tools for a long time, and I'm starting to swing over to Studio One.
Yeah. Studio One is excellent. If I ever do fully break up with Apple, I think my Windows machine is gonna definitely run Studio One.
It's a good program, man. I'm kind of enjoying it.
It really is. It really is. Very affordable too. That's what really Pro Tools is. Pay to play model of customer support really turned me
I gotta
off.
say, I mean, I have an older version of Pro Tools, and it's been pretty good, but it goes back. So I'm essentially running Pro Tools 8 on a Windows XP computer. So
whoa.
I mean, it runs perfect. I don't have any problems, but everything is starting to be like, we don't support this anymore. This is gone. So I'm like, okay, it's time to start to upgrade, and I don't want to upgrade to the new Pro Tools because they've become so proprietary with stuff that it's just kind of gotten annoying. And I didn't even buy anything from them for upgrades. That's from reading user groups,
Yep. They have their whole subscription model and the year-long license costing, oh God, I don't even remember how much it is, but like you don't even own the program. You essentially are paying a rent to never own, kind of paying into that kind of model instead of just buying it once outright, and then you have the upgrades when they're small for free, and then the big upgrade you can cross grade with Studio One, with Logic. Logic's updates have been free for pretty much forever, ever since 10 came out, I think. So we're going on, I think, 6 or almost 7 years since that happened. So yeah, I would abandon everything Avid as soon as possible.
I mean, and people love it. I mean, and
rough.
it's a great program, and I've enjoyed it for years. But now that I'm really starting to dip into recording more and more, so learning Studio One, and that's another reason, to bring it back to your class. That's the reason I wanted to see what you were doing. It kind of opened up my eyes a little bit more where, oh, okay, I don't just see it in Pro Tools anymore. I've been using Studio One, so now I see it in Studio One, how everything works. Oh, well, you were using what, Logic?
Yeah.
So I'm like, Logic, well, now I can see, I get it in Logic now. Now I understand this whole layout, so...
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to kind of do the class in a way, because I kept on, as soon as I made the event, I kept on getting question after question. What program are you using? Doesn't matter. What program are you using? You can do the same exact stuff no matter what I have, as long as you got a computer. I don't know, download Reaper. You never have to pay for it. No matter how many times they ask you for money, you'll never have to pay for it. Download Reaper. It does the same stuff. It's just differences in the way it looks and where things are. And that goes for like any of the classes. There's so much cool stuff that's easily applicable with things that are extremely affordable. One thing that if I think I know what Cam is going to do, a lot of the things that and this is the guy that's doing the synth class coming up, a lot of the things that are in audio production and sound design are available essentially, for free. The premium aspect of it comes from just how good it sounds and how little you can fight with it. But I can make, and anybody can make, stock sounds sound pretty decent if they know what they're doing. It's just, you pay for convenience in many ways than not, but even that's starting to kind of go away. But yeah, just kind of getting as broad as possible to get people into as many things as they can while they got the time. And just like if I can get somebody that wasn't previously interested in something like home production actually into that, then cool. Like that's really cool. That means that the class worked. Or if I got somebody who has been saying to their friends or to their bandmates, I don't need to learn theory, and then we have Jeff schooling them on why you really should learn the notes on your guitar, and it inspires them to actually learn the notes on their guitar, which this actually happened. Is actually happening yesterday, which was awesome. That means that the class worked. That means that it's doing exactly what it's meant to do, which is inspire people. Even further, if you feel like you can do this bigger, better, and cooler than ever, great. Do it. Steal the idea. That is also happening, and I love it. You know, that means that it's working. It means that people are trying to adapt and trying to make something good come out of this stupidly unpredictable situation that's sitting in front of us, you know.
As I say, man, you put it out in the world and see what happens. Because if you never put it out there, you don't know what the response is going to be. So
right, and that was where I was at with it from the beginning.
Well, I thought it was awesome, as I said, man, and I congratulate you for putting something like that out there for people, especially for free. You know, that people would jump right into it. As we start to wrap things up, man, so help me out. Just review for us. Run down the Quarantine Masterclasses. Where can we reach it? Where can we find you? How often are the classes? All that. Run that down for everybody right now.
Yeah, so the classes you can get all the details for the classes in the Facebook group, Quarantine Music Masterclass. If you have trouble finding it, there's a subtitle, educational community for all music makers. And you can reach me personally. The DMs are open on Facebook and Instagram. Just find me by name, Rahsaan Lacey, spelled RAHSAAN LACEY. If you can't find me, check your spelling. I also play, once again, in the band The LA Maybe. That's the L.A. Maybe, MAYBE. Lost the ability to spell. And you can find everything that we do by typing that same thing in your favorite search bar. And yeah, the classes are every Monday at 1 p.m., and they're a different subject every single week, diving deep into whatever I think we all need. So there's going to be special guests. There's going to be just me talking about stuff, but it's always a good fun time.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast and telling me all about this, man, and letting the listeners know. I'm really happy to see the music community trying to grow a little bit during this time. So
yeah, we have to try, at least. Even though there's not much to grow with, there's still some sort of upward direction that we can go into with this.
Awesome. Well, man, you have a great day. I appreciate it again, Rahsaan. Have a great day.
Thank you again, Matt.
And that will bring the second installment of the Corona Files to an end. Thanks for listening. Be well and stay safe.